Hey guys, Professor Cruz again, and I want to welcome you to Module 2, The Dimensions of Moral Development. This week we kind of break from the traditional world of ethics and philosophy and kind of slide into the world of psychology a little bit, which a lot of people find this kind of an interesting chapter just because psychology is fun and a lot of people like it. But it is really kind of important to understand our moral development when we're going to later on talk about moral decision making, okay? Because it kind of undergirds that whole conversation of how to make the right moral choice when we understand how we develop more morally over our lives and through our experience. And that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So again, I just wanted to make another video for you guys to help you through the module, give you some tips about the assignment. Like last week, just kind of, bear with me when if I stumble through this or whatever. It's kind of, I'm just going to do it in one shot and not necessarily edit it afterwards because that, takes a lot of time. But this is really just kind of a conversation between us about how to help you out through the week. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see the course, which I forgot to do the first time I recorded this video. So hopefully this time it is going to be a little more successful. Okay. So before we get too much into it, I just want to say something real quick about the importance of feedback and checking your feedback throughout the semester. You guys turned in your first assignments Friday night, and I'll start grading those throughout the week, and you'll see those grades post as they come up. And when you do that, really go to the submission reviews and check on what I've written there for you, because I'm going to do my best to give you feedback that helps you improve your process each time and make a better assignment. I'm not going to, start taking off for things in the middle of the semester that I haven't taken off before and get all, change the expectations on you. But I do increase, my expectations week to week and the amount that I actually will start taking off for repetitive mistakes and doing the same things over and over. Because the idea is with this feedback, I'm going to have to figure out how much pressure I need to apply to you guys to get you to execute the expectations of the assignment the way I intend for you to do that. And in a sense, it's kind of like what you'll see in this chapter, the whole idea of negative reinforcement. That's my grading pen, right? Pen it's my reinforcement tool. I ask you what I need for the assignment, you give it to me, great. If not, I take points off, and the next time you'll make those adjustments, because at the end of the day, what are you really concerned about? It's your grade, right? And I'm concerned about making you a better student, and we kind of meet in the middle through the utilization of the feedback. Okay, so definitely check your feedback. When you check your feedback, if you have any questions about it, feel free definitely to reach out and ask me. Okay, and I'll try to clarify it for you the best I can. So this week, when you get to the module, you'll see like normal, the overview, the essential questions. Most of these modules are set up the same. Okay. I've got another infographic in here for you that kind of walks you through what I think the logical approach to this module is, kind of like the intent behind it when I design the module. Obviously, feel free to work on it however you see fit, but I always think it makes sense to, read the chapter, take notes, take the quiz, do the assignment, submit the assignment. So that's kind of the approach I've laid out here. Okay. So obviously the first thing you're going to, you'll see in your module is the Chapter 2 SmartBook quiz. Read the chapter, take notes, take the quiz. We've kind of familiar with this now after doing the Chapter 1 SmartBook quiz. Make sure you keep up with these. You're going to have at least one every module. They're worth 1.5% of your overall grade. It should be 15 easy points. Now, easy in the sense that all you have to do is complete the assessment in its entirety, and you'll get the points. But I know it can be a little bit difficult and frustrating when you have to keep answering questions correctly when you've got them wrong. But the idea is to reinforce the concepts through this kind of approach to the quiz. So just make sure you take your time, answer them correctly, and then you'll get your points and you can move forward. You'll see that this quiz has 22 concepts, and the estimated time to complete it's going to be 40 minutes. So plan accordingly. Then you'll see after that, we have the videos from the faculty members. I like the videos from this course in particular, from this module, I should say, because they're very interesting. It talks about moral development, starting way back with Plato and all the way through Kohlberg and Gilligan, who are main focus in the chapter, all the way up into Rest with a more kind of contemporary four component model. It talks about nature versus nurture, tabula rasa, punishment, reinforcement, stuff like that. It's really kind of cool. If you're interested in psychological stuff, I definitely recommend watching these videos. You can see they're not very long, kind of quick YouTube videos that you can listen to while you're working, but they're definitely worth checking out. And then when you get to the assignment for the module, which I know is going to be the biggest focus for most of you guys, you'll see a couple things. Before you get there, you'll see this thing, the 40-point rubric, and it says download this document in MS Word and include it as a separate page after your references page for this week's assignment. So you're going to set your APA paper up, then you're going to have your reference page, and then on an additional page, you're going to have this rubric. So what you'll want to do is click this little caret here, hit the download button, and then it'll pop up in Word, and you can just copy and paste it. It looks very similar to the one we had last week. 5 points for instructions, 5 points for APA, but where this was 5 points for your reply post, now it's grammar and mechanics. You have 2 extra days to work on this, so I expect it to be a little more put together with the details. So keep an eye on that kind of stuff, and then 25 points for your content, making that same 40 points, okay? And now, what you'll see, the reason why you're putting this on your document at the end, when it's a Dropbox assignment, I'm going to go into a little more detail with the feedback, because like I said, you've got more time to work on it, so I'm going to expect a little bit more. So what I like to do is grade it on my iPad, and I actually like to kind of write on it and grade it like a traditional kind of thing, where I can write notes or type on it, and then send it back to you in a file format that has all that on it. And I need you to upload this so I can fill that out at the end, because the only thing is the PDF program that I use to write that on won't allow me to add additional pages. So I need you guys to add it in there for me. If you don't include this in your assignment, I will take point off because it is part of the requirements, okay? So make sure you get that on there with your assignment, okay? Now the assignment itself, the instructions are here, and I'm going to kind of run through some of the highlights real quick, but I encourage you to definitely read it like further. You're going to research and summarize an article, and you're going to state the main ethical issue in proper format. What we're doing with this assignment, it's mostly about kind of summarizing a scenario and learning how to identify the main ethical issue, which is something that we're always concerned about in ethical decision making, because it's that biggest question that needs to be answered with the situation. This is a practice for our assignments to come, starting in 2 weeks when we do the critical thinking application process, and we're going to apply ethical theories to get an ethical decision from a case study. And this is one of those first steps, is identifying the main moral issue, or also what we call the central ethical issue, okay? Now, in the first section here, under the summary, it says 150 words minimum, so make sure you hit that minimum. If you go below that minimum, I'm going to deduct. If you go over it, make sure that you're doing it for a purpose. I always tell students, if you're going to go over a word count, you better be Rumpelstiltskin. And what did he do? He spun gold. So if you're going to make me keep reading a bunch of extra, spin gold, right? Make sure it's adding to the point, not taking away from it. And this isn't because I don't want to read more. It's more about brevity being a key concept of academic writing. Can you quickly, succinctly, and efficiently summarize the big ideas of the assignment? So that's the point of keeping that word minimum at like around a solid paragraph's worth, okay? Now, it says research a reliable article regarding an incident that occurred within the last 6 months and contains an ethical issue. So we know from chapter 1, an ethical issue is a moral issue of right or wrong. So we need to make sure it has that kind of question in it. And it's not just a non-moral issue. For example, a couple of years back when we were during the COVID time, one of my students wrote about, a soccer trophy that wasn't given out because they took 3 months off the season. That's not really an ethical issue. They decided this is a season-long trophy. We didn't have a full season, so this year we're not going to give it out. It would be unethical if somebody had earned the trophy and they gave it to somebody else. that would be another thing. But deciding that it wasn't fair to give it out because they didn't have a full season doesn't really fall under the realm of what we're looking for. We're looking for a situation where we know clearly there's a moral right and wrong going on, and we want to explore what that is, okay? Now, I do want to point out the idea of reliable article. I know that's kind of loaded, and even as a librarian, I kind of don't really like that phrase that much because it kind of opens a can of worms into like what do we think's reliable? Because each of us, through our own like biases and things that we like and prefer, we're going to find different things reliable. So what I brought up here for us to look at is this media bias chart. You can see the all sides media bias chart. I use this a lot in my class instructions and also in my instructions as a librarian. You can Google just media bias chart and find this same information. But I wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's got the center, it's got the right, and it's got the left. Now, when we say something's in the center, it's not usually leaning one way or the other, not trying to give too much of a political bias or an opinion. And we like that. I would prefer for you guys to stay within this realm right here as much as possible and get something from more of a neutral source, because the idea is in ethics, we want to decide what's the right and the wrong in the story. We don't want somebody else to tell us what is right and wrong or what the situation is or what the good or bad is. And that's what starts to happen a lot of these days with things that we call like news. It's really more op-eds that kind of, kind of like showcase themselves as news, but isn't really like news, right? And you guys know what I'm talking about. Think on either side, the things where you're watching the news and they're clearly trying to get you to get a certain agenda. So we want to be careful of stuff like that. And what's cool about this chart is you can see we have the center, which is the more neutral stuff. It's kind of, ironic that, British Broadcasting Company is the most neutral and reliable news for US news because it's British. But that's exactly why it's more neutral, because they don't really have a dog in the fight, so to speak. Like they're interested in what happens in America, because what happens here can affect other parts of the world. But they don't really have a side they want to push. So they kind of just say what's going on. So that's like kind of why you see this one right there in the center sometimes. And then you'll see this is kind of right leaning, and this is very right leaning, and this is kind of left leaning, and this is very left leaning. I want us to stay out of these extreme margins. I don't want you grabbing sources from anything on these extreme left and rights. I'd prefer you to be in the middle. And if we squeeze a little bit one way or the other, that's okay. But just be careful of how far over we're going, because the idea is we want to decide what's right, wrong. We don't want somebody to tell us based off of their political motives or financial investment or what have you, okay? So feel free to Google this media bias chart and look that up and use it when you're doing your assignment, okay? Now, when you get to the rest of your assignment, so you summarize the article in a paragraph. And I want you to give me a nice hearty summary where, one, I can tell that you were reading an article, and two, I know what the big important things of the article was. Think about this like a movie preview. There's a 2-hour movie. They give you like a 2-minute little commercial for it to watch, basically, where you have a good idea of what's going to happen, but they haven't told you the whole story. Kind of like that, where you're going to give me like the who, what, where, why, when, how, but not necessarily listed out like that, obviously, but just so that way, if I haven't read your article from reading this paragraph, I should have a solid understanding of what the situation is. Now, make sure you have your APA in-text citations throughout that paragraph while you're citing things. There should probably be multiple. I mean, you don't have to do every single line, but there should be a couple citations in there. That was a big issue for some of us on the first assignment. We didn't do the in-text citations. I cannot accept an assignment that has plagiarism in it, even if you didn't like deliberately mean to cheat. I can't in good faith give you a grade for something that I know isn't properly documented to, academic integrity standards. If in any class but an ethics class, right? This is where we would have to make sure we're following these standards. You also need a full reference citation on the references page afterwards. And there were some issues with that in the first one assignment as well. So I'm going to show you guys some resources in a minute that's going to help with that, okay? But after you have that paragraph, then you're going to do your main ethical issue. Now, don't overdo it with the main ethical issue. It's literally just one sentence in bold, like it says. You don't even have to write main ethical issue with it, just one bolded sentence after your paragraph on its own line. And this is going to address the biggest question that would need to be answered from an ethical perspective in the situation you just summarized. So when you look over this part here, it tells you in more detail. I'm not going to read through each line of it. I want you to look at that yourself, but I will tell you there's only two acceptable formats we want for this main moral issue, and that's a should or a what should question. The should question, you should be able to answer it with a yes or no eventually. And the what should question, you should be able to answer it with options. Okay, we're not doing those answerings right now, but that's the way the question should be posed. Because if you'll see, you remember from chapter 1, we want to know about the should questions of ethics. Okay, we're interested in how things ought to be, and that's why we pose the question with should. So I want you to think about who would be the decision maker in your case. Who would be the person or the entity or people that would have to do something to resolve the ethical issue in your case? It could be a person, it could be people, it could be government, it could be something. But who has to do something? And then the question is what they have to do. So I want to use the MLK example from Birmingham as a case study. So let's kind of put our minds back in that perspective for a second. Here's Dr. King. He wants to go talk in Birmingham. They put the parade law on him. He speaks illegally. He gets arrested, right? Before he acted, what question should he have asked? I would pose this as, should Dr. King break the parade law? Because that's that moment where something has to happen. The big ethical issue is he's trying to decide if he should break the law or not. That's how I pose the question. Should Dr. King break the law? Okay. Or what should Dr. King do about the law? You see how the should he break the law could be a yes or no, and the what should could be filled in by options. You could say he should break the law, he should not break the law, he should find another place to speak that isn't in public, he should challenge the law to the state Supreme Court. I don't know, something like that, right? You could start thinking of ways he could resolve that question. Either way is fine. I personally like the should question. I think it's the easiest. Just should Dr. King break the law? You pick the one that you want for yourself. I know I'm taking a lot of time speaking about this one sentence thing, but you'll see in a couple of weeks how this is a bigger building block for things to come, okay? So you're going to look at your situation from your article that happened in the last 6 months. Who's the decision maker and what question should they be asking as they're facing this big issue, okay? So let's give that your best shot that you can. Then I want you to make sure you check through this assignment checklist before you submit it. Some people missed one or multiple things from this on the first assignment, and this is meant to be like a checks and balance so you don't miss that kind of thing. So make sure you go through and you ask yourself each of these questions. When you can answer yes to all these questions, it's ready to turn in. If you can answer no to one of those questions, don't turn it in yet. Fix it and turn it in, because that's going to cost you points, because these are the things that I'm looking for, whatever's in the instructions and on this checklist. That's what I'm looking for to grade you on, okay? So make sure you go through, you double check, and you make sure everything's good before you submit it. Okay, and when you submit your assignment, then that takes you to the end of this module, and you're good for this module, and you're ready to start thinking about the next module, okay? Now, before we go, now that I've told you about the assignment, I want to talk to you about the APA stuff a little bit, since we did have some issues with it last week. Remember, we've got the APA resources module here. I want you to click on that, and I want you to use these, because it's not at all surprising to me that the people who had the biggest issues with APA on the first assignment never accessed this module. Now, I'll tell you, because I believe in being straightforward and honest and transparent, I can see all your activity in this course. I can see when you've signed in, how many times you've signed in. I can see if you've read my email. I can see if you've read your feedback, and I can see every piece of content you've accessed and how long you accessed it for. because I'm the host of this site. So I have all that kind of backdoor access into this program. So that's kind of one of the things I look at. I'm like, well, you know, they messed up with citations. Did they go use a resource? No. So make sure the resource is here. In this course is most of the stuff you're going to need to be successful in the class. I've put this stuff in here to help you. Why am I such a stickler on APA? It's because I know that you're going to use this a lot through the rest of your time in college, and the faster that you can learn it and get familiar with it, the better it's going to be for you. I spent 9 years as a writing tutor, and now I'm a librarian. I know how much students struggle with this, so I've put it into my course to help you learn it quicker, so that way it won't keep affecting you on assignments later on in college. A lot of students get mad when teachers take off, but it's attention to detail. And a good college paper has clean detail throughout. So I'm trying to help you with that. Now I understand that you guys might not be super proficient with it, and that's why I put these resources. So first thing I want you to look at right here, the APA 7th edition sample paper. When you click on this, this is a document that shows you how to lay out your paper. You need to have a title page. You need to have your page numbers in the top right corner. These blue boxes tell you what each element should be. So you're going to do your title of your paper, which I've asked for in the assignment instructions to be, an interesting title that reflects the content of your paper. Please don't just write Module 2 assignment. Give me an interesting, unique title. Then you're going to fill in this information. And then your title goes right back here again on page 2. You're not going to put summary as your title on page 2. You're going to put whatever you put on the title page right here. And then when you read through this document, it shows you how to set a paper up in APA, talks about different expectations. I would read through this document. It's not just filler words on there. It really shows you what you need to know about understanding the student paper. It talks about quoting within the paper, paraphrasing. So despite the instructions saying no direct quotes, a lot of people use direct quotes. You are not allowed to use direct quotes for any assignment in this class. I don't find much value in that because all you do now in this age of technology is you can search a document, find something that sounds good, copy and paste it. I want to see you synthesize this information into your own thoughts and ideas, and then you cite it. You still have to cite it because while the words are yours, the idea came from somewhere else. But this is just a better technique for putting that research into your paper because it allows you to maintain your own voice, but also shows that you truly understand what you found and wrote about rather than just grabbing and copy paste, okay? So if you need to know more about paraphrasing, feel free to use this section here as well, okay? And then you just keep going through and it tells you more about stuff like your narrative citations. Like this is one way to cite your document. You can do it in the actual sentence. And then this is your parenthetical citation where it shows you how to do a citation after the sentence. Many of you had some issues with that, so please use the resources to help so we can get this right. And then on the reference page, it shows you how the reference list should be ordered alphabetically, how we should have hanging indents on our sources, and other things that are important, but this is the references page. And so on all your assignments from here on out, I'm going to expect full APA style, which is a title page, a reference page, and then a separate section for the body. Now, you don't have to have all these crazy amount of headings because your body is just one paragraph and a bold sentence, but it should look like this, 3-section type paper with the title page, the body part, and the reference page, okay? So please use that to help you out. Also in this module, you'll see that I have a reference citation example guide, and this shows you different kind of stuff. So here's your whole book right here, kind of set up, which is a hint. This is like what your textbook is, but with 2 authors. Okay. Many of you guys for this first assignment, you're going to go on a website and get some information. That's great. Here's your 2 main setups for that. Your article from the website will have a stated author or it won't have a stated author. I will caution you against using a resource where there's no stated author. I don't find that very reliable. If someone's not willing to stick their name on it, I don't really trust that very much because to me, it seems like they're hiding from it. If you are proud of your work, you'd put your name on it. If you don't put your name on it, you're not trying to claim it because you don't want it to come back to you. So to me, that's always a little sketchy on the reliability. Okay. So this shows you how you would set up the author, the date, the title, the name of the website, URL. So you can follow that model. And here's an example of like what one would look like. Now, when you go to the last page of this document, it shows you the specific formatting expectations for each of those elements. What happens when you have one author, two author, or more? How do you set up the date? How do you set up the title of the published work in the reference citation? And then this location information, like how do you handle it based off of if it's a website or a journal, or if it's a book, et cetera, et cetera. But if you follow those elements, you'll get the right reference citation, okay? Also, I have a document here that shows you how to build, where is it? Build a reference citation, because obviously those are already done and set up, but this takes you step by step. Each piece, we need our author, our date, our title, our location. Location is just a word that I use for where you can find it. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be some sort of electronic source, right? So it shows you how to go through, setting up the name, the date, the title, location. So you have it, shows you step by step how to build your reference citation. And then even on this page, it has all the rules listed out again, because I like nothing but redundancy to at least make sure you get constantly exposed to this information so you'll have it at your disposal, you see. So then once you have your reference citation built, which I would build first, once you have your article, now you know how to set up the in-text citation because it goes off of the reference citation. So then again, there's a matching document that shows you how to build an in-text citation. It shows you the information you need, author, date, and the location. The location would be where it's located in the source, either a page or paragraph number if you're using a direct quote, but remember, we're not using direct quotes. We're only using paraphrasing, which means the name and the date will be enough to suffice. Now, another tip, if your article doesn't have a date on it, don't use it because this has to be the last 6 months. And without that date, how can we verify that happened in the last 6 months? So just another thing to pay attention to. And then similarly, at the end, it has the different rules for like setting up, these different elements on that in-text citation. So really make sure you use that, okay? Now, if you're one of the people who is struggling with paraphrasing, that's fine. I've got something for quotes and paraphrasing in APA. And if you go to like the second page of this document, it talks about paraphrasing multiple sentences in a row. So this is all kinds of stuff that you can look over here as well to help you with, setting up those paraphrasings. So like really like whatever you need to understand about the APA, it's right here for you. You just have to use the resources that are available, okay? And the same thing too, if you're not comfortable at all using this, there's a PowerPoint right here that you can watch that was put together by two of my colleagues, Bridget and Paul, that really gives a good brief introduction to APA style. Okay, so on the last thing I want to show you while we're talking about formatting, since the last video, I added another module to the course. It's called Jaunty Joy, and that's just a fun little alliteration for Joy's name. She's our embedded course librarian. This is my colleague from the Clearwater Library. I have her in here as a point of contact with the library. I'm also a point of contact with the library. We're just doubling down here. But she's got this module in here with tools. I had her in my other face-to-face class, so why not bring her into this one? This is her email. If you want to email her, you can schedule a research consultation with her either online or in person. I know many of you can't make it to campus, so you can meet with librarians and writing tutors online. So there's no excuse to not get this help if you need it. But the librarians can talk to you about the citations, the formatting, and all that kinds of stuff. And the writing tutor is going to help you with the actual writing of your paper. There's a course research guide in here, and you'll see me on there. That's just because I'm the library liaison for this department. So if like faculty members or students don't know who to get in contact with from the library, they reach out to me. But there's different things in here about your ethics assignments. There's additional resources you can click on, frequently asked questions that have been answered for you. So it's definitely a cool tool for you to check out in here as well. So I'm really doing the best I can to kind of build in all of the resources you need to be successful, because I know when you're an online student, you can't always make it to campus. You don't always feel like you're super supported, and you feel like you got to do a lot of stuff on your own. So I'm really trying my best to get you what you can, what you need to be successful, you know, in a supplemental way for like the things that you would usually get for coming to class and meeting with the professor. So in a sense, I think that's all I have for you this week. I talked about feedback. I talked about the module and the assignments, the APA formatting. So just keep those things in mind as you're working. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, queries, anything you need from me, please don't hesitate to email and ask. That's what I'm here for. So let's get our assignments done and completed and turned in on time. And I look forward to reading them as they come in and seeing what kind of, issues you guys come across in your research. And then, when we complete this week, we'll move into next week where we start thinking about critical thinking. So that's all I got for tonight. If you need anything, reach out. If not, just have a great week, not just in this class, but in all your classes. And I'll catch up with you next week again. All right. Bye.